Good morning, Matt from William Henry here. One more time, another week of shelter in place on the West Coast. But things are starting to open up. Some more traffic on the roads, some cautious optimism. So that's great. Uh, so I'm going to go right back to the beginning of William Henry and then skip a little bit. But in the story of how does a brand or a product or an entrepreneur find a market? And there are lots of different ways, and obviously the topography of the world has changed quite a lot, at least in terms of marketing and outreach, since William Henry started. And the internet was in its early days. There was no social media, so you couldn't do a Kickstarter program or come up with a clever hashtag in an Instagram store, and away you go. So right at the beginning, 97, I'm starting. I'm designing and building the first prototypes and then making the first very small production myself in this little room. And by early 98, I could make this product. Not a lot of it, but I could make William Henry pocket knives. And I needed a market. So I wasn't sure if there was a market or where the market would be, but what I decided to do was do 4 trade shows in 4 weeks by myself. So February, March 98, I did a show in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Vegas, and San Francisco, all in a 4 week period. Each of these were 4 or 5 day shows on the floor, 10 hours a day. There wasn't a lot of time in between, so it was a helter-skelter month. But I went to these 4 shows, and 3 of them flopped catastrophically. I had a show in Atlanta where I did $1,200 of total sales in 5 days at a trade show. And the $1,200 was just other exhibitors at the trade show who liked my stuff getting something for themselves. So the math did not pencil. Um, but one of those shows, the show that was in Las Vegas, I was in the right place and I found the right people. And I came back with 3 failed shows, but one really successful show and a whole folder full of handwritten orders for the product. And that was when I hired my first employee, and away we went. So it was just you throw stuff at the wall and you hope that something sticks, because there isn't really a roadmap. And certainly for William Henry at that point, doing sort of fine, high level luxury pocket knives, although they were simpler certainly than they've evolved to be, but they were still fine and relatively expensive. I was trying to figure out, there wasn't a map for, oh, here's where people who make this stuff sell this stuff. So I was trying to find my way. Luckily, that show in Vegas got us going in the right direction, and I was never really had to look back. But it was a heck of a month, and I look back now as the gray comes into the beard, and I go, man, the energy and optimism of youth. But in any case, so that was a little moment that was really important. And then let's fast forward 9 years. So now William Henry is an established brand. We've won a lot of industry awards. We have substantial distribution. We just started to test the waters in the traditional jewelry market. It was sort of me going, well, we were already testing the waters, but we'd never done a trade show there. Where I go, well, people are buying, beautiful jewelry and high-grade commodities and watches and all of these things. Um, what I'm doing, what William Henry is doing, is worthy of that same customer and that same attention, and I would love to expand my audience beyond a more traditional cutlery market. How do I get to that distribution system and those retailers? So I decided I really wanted to do the sort of big annual trade show focused on jewelry and watches in Las Vegas. It's called JCK. It took me a couple of years for JCK to even let me in, because we made knives at the time. We were maybe just before we were dabbling in pens, but really we were still a knife company. We hadn't done jewelry or anything else. There were no other brands like that. There wasn't any product like that in this environment. 2,500 exhibitors from around the world, but nary a pocket knife to be found, or any other knife for that matter. I finally got them to reluctantly let us into the show. They put us upstairs in the back of a room obviously a big room in this conference center that was the Hong Kong Manufacturers Pavilion. And on the back wall, behind the Hong Kong exhibitors, there we were, William Henry, which was not the right place to be. And being in the right place in a trade show where there's a lot of different stuff happening and you've really got to show up on the radar is really important. We did a little bit of business there, but certainly nothing like we should have. But the lucky thing was that a couple friends of mine who were really influential in the industry and fans of William Henry, including John Hardy, and many of you will know the John Hardy brand of jewelry, which has been around since the 70s. It's gorgeous work. So John Hardy was a fan, and John Hardy had sway in the jewelry industry. And he said, Matt, what the hell is William Henry doing behind the Hong Kong pavilion? I said, John, I don't know. That's where they put us. I can't. He said, we're going to fix that. And over the next few months, he lobbied some key people in these trade show boards to say William Henry belongs with us. He belongs with the best manufacturers. This brand is worthy of the same customers that are looking at our stuff and buying our stuff and reselling our stuff. And he and a couple others lobbied on our behalf, and all of a sudden we were into the right room at the right show in Las Vegas associated with this sort of larger jewelry convention. And so since then, we have been sort of an outlier in terms of product, but we are next to and with the finest designers, manufacturers, and brands in the world of sort of jewelry and accessories related to jewelry. So that has allowed us to expand our breadth. And many of you may have, in fact, discovered William Henry at a jewelry store. And us getting out of the back of a Hong Kong pavilion and into the right environment in those trade shows was really pivotal in uh, being able to eventually present the product to you. So you take your lumps, you put one foot in front of the other, you hope that enough of the decisions are right and they work, and that an idea actually becomes a business. So there you go. Thanks. We'll see you next time.